Hello and welcome to another episode of Rufus Eats Cheese. Today we have 5 amazing Welsh cheeses here for this beautiful Welsh cheese board. Something for everyone here, some hards, some blues, some nice creamy looking cheeses. Let's see what they're all about. First of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched, liked, shared and subscribed. It makes a huge difference to the channel. There's over 830 of you now, which is quite mind-blowing. And thank you so much for all the comments. You really seem to know your cheese, guys. I'm really amazed with some of the cheeses you're coming out with. And please keep them coming. I'm always on the lookout for amazing cheeses to try and enjoy. The problem I have is whittling down my favourites list, which is ever growing. So, yeah, keep those suggestions coming. They're really appreciated. To all my Welsh friends over there, I apologise in advance for my pronunciation. I am always doing my best with some of these cheeses that are not English cheeses. So, please, if you know the proper way of saying these, please let me know down below. With some phonetic guide would be really handy. Okay, let's take a look at this cheese board. So, as I said earlier, we've got a bit of something for everyone on here. We have a nice hard cheddar, another reasonably hard cheese here, a nice blue, something that looks a little bit like a brie or a camembert, and then a very gooey looking cheese over here. So I'm going to start with the hard cheeses over here, starting with this beautiful bit of cheddar here. This is a cloth bound cheddar called Havard, and it is made very close to where I am over in Cardiganshire here. It's a local cheese. I don't know if you can see here, it has the most beautiful looking rind. And those of you who know your cheddars may realise that's because it's been cloth bound when it was matured during its affinage. There's a few little crystals in there as well, which look fantastic. And it smells great. It's just coming up to room temperature, which is really nice. So, by the way, if you are over in this neck of the woods, you need to visit Watson and Pratt's in Lampeter. They have the most amazing cheese selection and gorgeous organic food from local producers all over. Big shout out to them. They were also super accommodating and let me try everything as well, which is really nice. So I think we'll dive straight in with our cheddar. So I did try this in store, and it has had a chance to warm up. Now, as you can see, because this has been cut pretty fresh, there's not a huge difference in colour between the surface I've just cut and this cut surface. If you buy a cheese pre-wrapped in a supermarket, there's a good chance that there'll be quite a difference in colour. And this is because it's just oxidised a bit on the outside, maybe dried out a little. So it's really nice to get the cheese in really good condition. You might be able to see here, there's a little bit of kind of flakiness here, which is really nice as well. That's telling me a little something about the texture of the cheese before I even try it. Let's see what the nose is like. Oh, wow. Okay, so it's immediately really complex. Unlike a lot of cheddars, where the first kind of thing you get is quite acidic on the nose, which a lot of people like, including myself, very sharp cheddar. The first thing I'm getting here is a very gentle mushroominess from where it's been cloth bound and aged. Oh, and a gorgeous butteriness. This almost smells like farmhouse butter, not the kind of sharpness you might expect from a fairly mature looking cheddar. So let's dive in. Oh, wow. Okay. That's quite something. So those buttery notes do come in fairly early, but you also get this gorgeous savoury umami, this slight saltiness but not overpowering, a little bit of that mushroom, and it's got a really good length, so it's still changing. Even though I actually finished it a little while ago, it's still changing, so it's becoming a little more lactic, like you have that fresh yogurtiness, so you're getting a little bit of that acidic freshness of young dairy products. But that savoury tone is still sat there underneath at the same time. Wow, that's actually really quite a complex cheese. That's beautiful. The texture just verges on the edge of a fudginess, which I've also had. If you check out the Sweet Charlotte up here, which is a Devonshire cheese, that had something similar going on, a slight fudginess in the texture of how the cheese kind of melts in your mouth. And there's a very good reason for that. The makers of this cheese have strong links, should we say, with the means of Alpine cheese production. So this is a cheddar using a sort of heritage recipe, but blended with an Alpine style. So I don't know precisely how they managed to balance that that particular trick, because I mean, cheese making's a bizarre blend of having exacting science and art, a bit like Snape saying the subtle science and exact art of potion making. That's a bit like cheese making, particularly when you're blending two types of cheese to create something new. I'm going to try this again with a little bit of the rind on here. Again, the rind has that slight caviness that you get with all cloth-bound cheeses, but this one's really nice and subtle. I don't know if it's how it's been stored there or how long it's been cloth-bound, but sometimes cloth-bound cheddar can be a little too mushroomy, a little too cavey and damp. But this is beautiful. It's a really nice, accent on there. So let me just try this piece here. Oh, it's absolutely magnificent. I always say that you can eat the rind on cheese, but my disclaimer is, if you like it, you shouldn't be forced to eat the rind on the Stilton just because it's edible. But this rind is really beautiful and really lends to the overall quality of the cheese. This really is a beautiful cheddar. They seem to have got a really nice balance of sharpness, saltiness, maturity, acidity, Those lovely, like slight mushroomy hints from the cloth binding all seem to sit so nicely. And those little crystals in there as well just add that bit of fudginess, but without being too over the top. Let's try one more piece just in case I was mistaken. It starts to melt straight away, and that butteriness then gives way. It's a lovely savoury tone, but it's almost like melted cheddar. Melted cheddar has quite a different flavour to unmelted cheddar. So when you make cheese on toast or cheese toasty or grilled cheese, if you're making it with proper cheddar, the cheddar takes on a particular flavour after it's been cooked. And there's just the slightest hint of that, and it's lovely. It's this caramelly, salty richness, but with a butteriness to it as well. And it carries on changing. And then we have those lactic notes coming in. It's now much fresher again. I'm going to stop talking and just eat this piece. That is a beautiful piece of cheese. That's a gorgeous piece of cheese. That's Hafod Cheddar from Wales. I'll stick a link in the description, so if you want to check them out, you can have a look. I believe at the moment, because they're such a small artisan producer, I think it's available locally. So if you are in Wales, you'll be able to buy it. You may be able to get it from some specialist places who are maybe buying whole wheels off them, but this might be a local one for you to try and find when you're here or near. Fabulous cheese. Wow. That's definitely going on the list. That's really good. Right, I am going to have an almond. So cleanse my palate a bit. And we are going to move on to this beautiful Savoy. It's produced similar way to traditional Caerphilly, but it also has a washed rind. So normally a lot of washed rinds, or commonly a lot of washed rinds, can be really pungent. This one is not stinking the place out, I have to say. Or, in fact, it's actually really nice. There's definitely quite a bit of animal left in there. Oh, that is so beautiful. Fantastic. Wow. I think sometimes washed rind cheeses can be a little over the top, and I'm not always so keen to eat them. This, they seem to have nailed it. I would say we're also very close to where these cheeses are produced, so they're kind of at their optimum. If you imagine buying a cheese in a supermarket, even if it's a local cheese, it will have been delivered to a central distribution area, and then from there it will have gone into storage for a little bit, and then it will be sent out to various other supermarkets. Then they have to take delivery, and then it goes into their storage, and then finally it's going to go on to... These have been essentially either brought or delivered directly to Watson & Pratt's, and there we are. So these are from the producers straight to the place they're being sold, and yeah, I think that's one of the other reasons. They do have very high standards as well. Aside from the cheeses, all of their other produce looked absolutely gorgeous, and we didn't just buy cheese, we bought quite a few other things there. So I think I'm going to... Oh, it's actually softer than I thought. That's kind of nice. It's soft but firm. And let's have a little look. Again, not too much difference in the... Oh, wow. In the surface I just cut and the one that was cut at the shop. Oh my word, that is amazing. So this one has a lot more perhaps creaminess going on. There's a sweet creaminess to those dairy notes. And also something of the animal still there. I don't know if that's purely from the rind, or if that's coming from somewhere else, but that's beautiful. There's also a little aftertaste of that freshness, so let's see what it's like. I'm going to take a little nibble off here. Wow. Straight away. Those animal-y notes are really up front in a good way. Oh wow. And then it's quite suddenly lactic. It's really fresh and light and acidic, but with that buttery, creamy richness still sat there in the background. It's getting a little sharper now, in a kind of lactic way, not in a salty way. And then it's becoming more aromatic. So I'm feeling a lot more kind of in the back of my nose, and almost a slight floral finish to it. Wow, that's quite incredible. Having eaten a little piece, this bit's now smelling a little more buttery. So I'll try another piece. I'm going to try a bit with a little bit of rind on as well. The texture, I didn't mention the texture before. It also has that very slight fudginess. It's just yielding in the mouth without turning into kind of granules. Just a little bit of resistance as it's melting. You can feel just a very slight texture, even though it's pretty much melted away. And that lovely freshness that comes through afterwards, the underlying savouriness. So, let's I'm going to finish this bit off. There's those light, mouldy, mushroomy notes from the rind, but the rind really isn't offensive. If you're ever unsure about trying washed rind cheeses because of perhaps horror stories about cheeses like Stinking Bishop, which is delicious, by the way, those really pungent cheeses don't necessarily make you want to try the cheese for the first time, but there's nothing offensive about this one. It's Absolutely magnificent. I'm going to take one more little slither off there, just a little one, just to make sure that, you know, I wasn't just making it all up. Let's try that. Oh. It's almost surprising, because the flavour changes so much, it's almost surprising to sniff this fresh piece here and for it to be so buttery and creamy and light, and then straight away, even with all that rind on there, that butteriness gets dialed up. Lovely savoury undertone running through it, with a sweetness as well, a slight sweet caramelliness to it. And it's still going. And then it's almost suddenly starts to become much more lactic. My mouth's now watering, there's that freshness to it. That's a beautiful cheese. So far, Wales, I have to say, 2 cheeses, your top marks for both of those. They are absolutely fabulous. I will definitely be looking out for those. Okay, let's grab another almond while we decide which one to go for next. Incidentally, the Hafod Cheddar here is unpasteurized, so not suitable for those with immune issues or they're pregnant or breastfeeding, but a magnificent cheese if you are if you can find it locally. Okay, we are moving on to the Abati here, which is a gorgeous looking little cheese. So Abati here, is a raw cow's milk cheese. It's organically certified. And it is quite pokey on the outside. It does not smell like a brie on the outside. So I'm going to dive straight in. Let's see what we can find inside. I apologise as well because I don't have my usual selection of cheese knives here. So if I turn this around, so here it is. It looks rather lovely. In fact, this almost looks like a tiny miniature little piece of valage. It's really creamy looking. And whereas the outside was quite pokey, the inside smells creamy and delicious and luxurious and wow. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So if you can see, there's a slight difference here between the center of the cheese and a bit around the rind, but I think we should probably just dive in. Oh wow. That's quite mind-blowing. So the first thing you get is this intense saltiness, but it's immediately quelled by this overwhelming creaminess from the inside. Wow, that's quite something. And there's some lovely fresh lactic notes as well to it, as you might expect from a cheese like this. There's no hint of any of that cabbaginess that you get with something like a camembert. So in some sense it's perhaps a little more brie-like than camembert-ish. Wow. The flavour is, for such a creamy, gentle flavour, it's really dialed up to 11. That is quite something. I'm not sure how they've achieved that, but maybe it's something in how long they keep it for. Maybe it's the fact that it is made with raw milk, but my mouth's now pouring with saliva having had that. That is really something. That, I would say, was quite a superior option to having maybe like a Somerset Brie or something. I would say that this is a far more worthy addition to a cheeseboard if you only had room for one. Gosh, those lactic notes are still developing. There's a real freshness and acidity, but none of that was there at the beginning. So I'm going to try another piece. Salty and rich, almost overwhelmingly creamy. And with this sharpness and almost a slight bitterness, but in just the right way. In the way that a nice bit of Stilton can have a slight bitterness to it. Wow. All those lovely savoury notes. There's something a little bit of the farmyard of the animals in there as well, which I think is most likely because of the nature of the milk, the raw milk. Wow, that's incredibly complex cheese. In fact, I have to say, Wales, all three of these so far have been really nice and complex. Sometimes cheese can be a little obvious or perhaps even a little monotonous. If you have maybe a piece of supermarket cheddar where the taste is just the same all the way through. Having said that, a lot of that is by design. This couldn't be more different. These are seemingly very unique products. I don't think I've ever tasted something like this. So it has the creaminess of the Valage, but it also has a sharpness of like a very young, fresh cheese. But at the same time, it also has that sustaining richness and saltiness, that umami that's really robust that you get with something like a piece of cheddar. So again, quite how they've managed that, I don't know, but well done. Creamy and salty and buttery. And something I hadn't noticed before, the texture of the rind is really nice. So it's almost feels like it's been wrapped in a leaf or something. It's really nice. It's got its own little character and its own little bit of bite to it, which goes so well with that creaminess inside. Particularly, as you can see with this one, there's that differentiation between the center here and then the edge kind of creaminess. Where the flora in there are doing their work and turning that beautiful milk into something really special. It's still going, it's still developing and changing. Wow, Wales, I'm really impressed. I really am. That is quite something. Okay, moving on. We're going to grab another quick almond. Wow, okay. Moving on. We have this beautiful looking blue here. This is Perl Las, which means blue pearl, I believe, in Welsh. I'm just going to swap these over so you can see them a little better. So we have a very nice blue vein. You can see where it's been spiked to let the air in. It looks like this one's spiked top and bottom. Some cheeses are spiked from the outside, which this may have been as well, but you can particularly see these lines here. Some cheeses are spiked multiple times. So there's a beautiful sort of ivory colour to the non-blue bit of the cheese, and certainly from my nose, the blue has that freshness. It doesn't have a kind of heaviness to it. So in that sense, it's perhaps more like Roquefort has that fresh blue as opposed to a heavy blue or bitter blue. There's no hint of bitterness or anything to it. Let's just turn it over and have a quick look at the other side as well. A couple of nice little pockets here. These were obviously little air pockets, and the air in there, the oxygen in there, has allowed the Penicillium roqueforti to grow on that surface and start to do its magic. The outside of the cheese here also looks rather beautiful. Oh, it's quite soft. It is holding its shape, but when I pick it up, it does have quite a bit of give to it and a little bit of a reluctance to be picked up there. The cheese is organic. It's made from pasteurized cow's milk, and again, it's really local to here. So I probably got a piece in really quite good condition. Again, Watson and Pratt's, all their produce, cheeses, everything, seem to be really well looked after. So I am sure that this is pretty much going to be tip-top. I'm actually going to cut this piece off. I'm going to have that piece second, because I'd like to try a bit from there. Now let's look at that. Oh. Again, for a pasteurized product, this still has retained quite a bit of that animal scent to it. That's quite special. It's definitely dairy, but I would say it's more fresh milky than buttery. The rind also has some nice notes to it, but I think I should probably dive straight in and try this one. So here we go. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. That is really, really good. I'm reminded of so many different blue cheeses. There's something of Roquefort, there's something of Stilton, there's something of Dorset Blue Vinny, all in one cheese, and they come in such quick succession. That's incredible. I'm actually going to try another little piece from the middle, because that all happened a bit quick. It is still developing, and those animal notes are really there still, but in a really good way. We have some, and there's that butteriness. There's some butteriness come through, but it's much later. Whereas some of the cheeses, the buttery flavors, that richness is much more early in your tasting. This is coming in now almost where the lactic notes would be in some of the other cheeses. I'm getting a little hint of lactic with it, or it's possibly a little hint of bitterness from the blue. But oh, that's so good. I'm going to try another piece, and this time I'll try and keep up. So here we go. So first off, there's that very rich, salty umami of, say, Stilton, but then it changes almost immediately and it tastes a lot more like Roquefort. So Roquefort's made with sheep's milk and it has more freshness to it in some way, and that's what's happened to this. So I'm now getting this lovely fresh dairy with the blue, a little reminiscent of like a Santa Gur, and that heavy Stiltoniness is gone, and now now those kind of buttery flavors are coming through. Oh my word, that's so good. That butteriness is just starting to yield, and it's a little more lactic and a little more blue, but just the right amount. I never quite understood how cheesemakers are able to do this, but I guess that's the art of cheese making as opposed to the science of turning milk into curds. Wow. Wales, I have to say, you are 4 for 4 so far. These are all extremely good cheeses. I'm going to try a little bit. This is actually from, I'm assuming this is a piece from the bottom of the cheese. So there's some markings on there, like radial markings, perhaps what the cheese was stood on, perhaps to drain the whey. I think these are smaller cheeses, perhaps, and something larger like a Stilton, you would put a kind of, when it's young, you'd put a board on the top to be able to turn the cheese, rather than trying to just sort of pick it up loose. You put a board on it and then kind of flip it and then take that top board off again. I'm wondering if these markings are something to do with where it's been stored and turned, because it is quite important to turn cheeses so that you don't end up with kind of a soggy bottom on it and a dry top. So to keep that moisture and all that bacterial action and the action of the mold, if it's a surface mold, or if it's a mold within the cheese like the Penicillium roqueforti, to keep them working, you need to kind of keep the conditions optimum for them. So let's try a little bit with this edging on here. Wow. That's really interesting. That's more savoury without being more salty. That's really nice. That's possibly my favourite blue cheese rind so far. Wow. That's extremely good. Wales, you really have outdone yourself. For those of you who know Welsh friends or have visited Wales, the Welsh are, quite rightly, very proud of being Welsh. You'll see a lot of Welsh flags around. I think these are actually little Welsh flags flying, and quite rightly so, So far, 4 very different cheeses, and they have all been excellent. Right, let's move on to our final cheese, something a little bit different. This is Brevo Bach, and it is an unpasteurized used milk cheese. As you can probably see, it looks like it has a washed rind, and it is also young. So it's, oh my word, I'm not even sure I can actually pick it up. I don't think I can actually pick it up. I will cut some instead. So as you can see, there's some lovely markings on the outside here. It's extremely soft. A knife almost falls through there. Oh, wow. And just look at that. As you may know, sheep's milk and goat's milk don't contain beta carotene, or at least they have very, very small levels compared with cow's milk. So rather than having this rich yellowiness, they tend to be whiter. The inside here, I have to say, does just look like clotted cream. So let's see. In fact, I might even need to turn the whole board around so that you can see that. Oh, it's beautifully fresh. Okay, so we're gonna try another piece of this, as we had a slight camera issue. Right, let's take another little piece of this. So I don't know if you can see, the inside looks sort of firm and fresh, but the outside has this amazing creamy gooiness to it, and it is the outside that has real punch of flavour. So let's try this again. Lovely and fresh. Wow. It's savoury, it's buttery, it's marmitey. It's also still got some of that milkiness, but also perhaps a little capraic flavour coming through. There is some capraic acid in used milk, and I'm normally not sensitive to it at all, but I can't touch anything from a goat. But I'm quite aware of the capraic acid in there, or at least those flavours. I will see what my wife thinks of this one at a later date and see if she can taste it, because I am hypersensitive to it. Magnificent cheese though. The inside is beautiful and fresh and light and lovely, with a rich, robust outside. Fabulous cheese, and we need to finish that one off in the next couple of days. So thank you all so much for watching. I've really enjoyed doing this gorgeous Welsh cheese board. It's my birthday today, so this was a little birthday present, along with a trip to Wales, which is rather fantastic as well. So I am going to enjoy these cheeses, and I hope you do the same. I will see you next time.